Get some energy going. Hey, we are live. Welcome to Live Lunch. I did almost forget what it was called again then. I'm like, how after like 47 weeks on the trot. Okay, there's a couple I haven't been here, but 47 weeks on the trot. I've said, hey, it's Live Lunch, welcome. And I just like blank immediately after blanking, the new lot telling me what the hell it was. Like, what is wrong with me, honestly? But here we are again. It's Thursday. It's 12 o'clock. We are going to have a bit of a chat. Mark did join the call, and we just know how busy he is at the minute. So we've got lots of clients waiting on Mark to complete jobs and that kind of thing. And he's got loads and loads of websites on the go, which is really exciting. So actually, hanging out with us for an hour when he's got loads of work on, sometimes you have to make the call, is it the best use of your time? So we've kind of said to him, Mark, don't worry, we'll do it without you this week. So yeah, if it's not as good as usual weeks, we know Mark's been carrying us for the last 47 or 46 episodes, right?
Yeah.
But yes, so as always, we're going to have a bit of a chitter chatter around what we've been up to, what's happening in the social media world that's worth talking about, lots and lots of different things. Jane, Emily, I know you've got a couple of news pieces. Only things I'm really going to share this week, I think, are related to some questions I've been asked around engagement. But Amanda, let's come to you first. So as always, you're kind of working quite closely with clients and working on bigger marketing strategies and that sort of stuff and implementing those things. So what have you been up to this week? What have you been working on? What are the takeaways that we can pass on to people?
So a couple of things, two which could probably prompt a bigger discussion. So I'll start with the first one, which is around Instagram. So as a client I'm working with, they are very brand orientated, or oriented, however you want to say it. They're quite high end as well. So, and it's consumer, not business to business. So LinkedIn isn't really right for them, not on Twitter, not a big fan of Facebook. So Instagram for them is their primary channel. And we've been using a scheduling tool, which is fairly new to me. So it's called, and there's some debate over how you pronounce it. So I would say Planoly. So it's Plan-O-L-Y. But other people pronounce it Planoly. So if you're Googling it, that's how you spell it, basically. But I have to say, I'm quite a fan of it because you can upload your photos and you get a view of what they look like on your grid without actually posting them. So you upload them to this Planoly and you can move them around, sort of drag and drop them. So you can almost see how, aesthetically pleasing your grid would be before you actually choose to post them. And you can schedule and do what you would need to do, and if you wanted to schedule to Facebook from there, you can. So it's got the typical things you would expect from a scheduling tool, but I like how visual it is and how geared around a brand it is. So if you're really kind of brand focused and it's all about how you appear, I think it's a great tool. So something that maybe people should have a little look at.
Is it just for Instagram, Amanda? I'm guessing it's not, but.
It's primarily for Instagram, I think. So you can sort of co-post to Facebook because they're linked. But yeah, it's because it's a visual platform. It's kind of is geared around kind of the grid. And if you're managing multiple Instagram channels, so like a personal one, the company one, again, you can flick between the accounts as well. So yeah, I'm just kind of getting my feet wet with it. But as a tool, I thought it was a pretty cool one.
Yeah, it's I think so. There's two that are very similar. So you've got Planoly, and there's another one called Planable, because everything has to have the same name for whatever reason, just to frustrate us. But I think Planoly is. I've put the link in the comments. So Planoly is the one that I don't think you can schedule to LinkedIn on, but it's kind of the way that it works and the features that it's got. I think it lends itself more to sort of e-commerce brands, or like you said, like the high-end stuff where you need really kind of high quality, impactful imagery. So if that sounds like you, it's definitely one worth checking out. Jane,
sorry.
No, I was just going to say, Jane's looked at loads of sort of social media schedulers and that kind of thing over the years. So, like, is there a tip you would give, Jane, in terms of choosing the right scheduler for you and your business?
Yeah, only really to make sure that you don't pay too much for something that's all singing and all dancing when actually that's not what you need. So my biggest tip would be absolutely think about exactly where you're posting, how often you're posting, what you're doing, and then look at the cost of all of these things to see which one actually does the minimum you need almost for the money that you've got, because you can end up going down a big massive rabbit hole of spending an absolute fortune on them. So that would be my biggest thing.
Yeah. Amanda, you were going to say something else when I rudely interrupted you.
Oh, not at all, not at all. I think it also helps, so that Plannerly helps with looking at kind of if you've got a strategy around what you're planning. So if you've got kind of, right, well, this week we want to focus on, I don't know, sort of environmentally friendly stuff, or we want to kind of say, right, every Monday we focus on our products, every Wednesday we focus on landscape and local area. So, and you can kind of see that and almost plan it ahead, and right, what photos do I need, what images do I need. It's got a great app as well, so you can use it desktop or app based on the go. So yeah, I kind of like that it's not just a quick, we need to shove something out there and put a post up. It's how does it look in the grid, what can we find, and what should we plan ahead for as well. So yeah, if you are a very consumer based and sort of maybe product or visual business, it would work well for you.
Paul's just asked a question: is there something better or more cost effective than eClincher? So eClincher is a scheduler that we use at Green Umbrella and we promote. If you've got so in Paul's situation, he runs a networking group, he gives all of his members promotion on his channels. So eClincher works really, really well for Paul's business specifically. I'd suggest that I've not come across anything that I think would be better for Paul's business, but looking through the comments, John has commented to say hello as well. John is a web designer. The work that he's doing, the channels that he uses more, something like Hootsuite would probably be a better option for John. So it is really about understanding what you need. We work with a lot of recruiters. If you've got a team of recruiters and you want everyone in your business to be posting on a regular basis and sharing your vacancies, then Pager is the best option on the market for you. So it really is about kind of understanding what you actually need out of the software and making sure you're choosing the tool that gives you the features you need and not just a bunch of features that are nice to haves. So I think that's the bit where people go wrong, isn't it? That they just kind of that they see a bit of software and it's like a free 30 days and then it's X amount afterwards, and they see the free and they go for that, and it's like great because it's got all this reporting, it's got this and it's got that and it's got the other. Actually, if you're never going to look at the reports, it doesn't matter how fandangled they are. Fandangled. I haven't used that word for a while. That's a good word. I'm like, oh, listen to that one coming out. Cool. So, okay, so let's move on from that. Emily.
Yeah.
So just so everyone knows, when we jumped on the call and we had a little chat, what's everyone going to talk about today? And Emily's like, I've read this article, and she started to tell us, and I was like that. I was all proud.
I don't like it when you say stuff like that because it just really builds up what I'm about to say, and then I get really nervous.
The thing is, I read this same article literally either last night or first thing this morning. I can't remember which now, it all kind of blurs. And when you were then saying about what was in it, I was like, she's literally read the whole article and thought about it in the way that, like, I was like, Emily's a mini me. God help her. But yeah, so come on, Emily.
Okay, here goes.
No pressure.
I know, now I feel so much pressure. Right, so what I wanted to talk about is something a little bit that's different for me, which is LinkedIn. So I do have some notes here as well, just so everybody is aware. I'm fully prepared. But LinkedIn has announced new initiatives to basically support the COVID-19 recovery. which is something that I thought was very interesting. So they are offering free job listings to healthcare organisations, pharmacies and governments, which have hiring needs in support of the vaccine distribution, which is something very similar to what they did in April. I believe, Christine, you might correct me on this, but I believe they offered free job listings for essential workers and that sort of thing at that particular time. So that's the first thing that they're doing. The second thing that they're doing is offering free ads to non-profit organisations, again, recruiting volunteers to help with the vaccine distribution and the centres and everything like that. And the third thing that they're doing is the UK sort of part of LinkedIn has announced a new programme that will assist big issue vendors with training and advice, basically to help get them back on track. So yeah, that's just three things that I thought were, well, first of all, we're obviously very current with everything that's going on. Secondly, not only are they helping with the vaccine distribution and effort, but they're also, as a business, sort of firming that they're sort of the main platform really to go in terms of that sort of thing, and job listings and recruitment and everything like that. And thirdly, I really liked the training and advice section with the big issue vendors. So not only are they sort of thinking now what has to happen now in order to get everyone back on track and get people back into work and distribute everything and get things back to normal, but they're also thinking more long term in terms of people that were maybe even struggling before. How can we get them back into work and get their skills up and things in order to get them off the streets or whatever they're doing and get them into full-time work. So yeah, I just thought it was really good. I thought it was obviously a bit of positive media for them as well, but they're helping and they're getting involved. So yeah, I thought it was good news to share on a Thursday live lunch.
No, do you know, it really is. And do you know what struck me about the big issue stuff as well is that, you know, so we're in Daventry, and there is, you know, it's a really tiny market town. It's not the most up and coming and cosmopolitan town in the world. I think we've kind of, you know, we've finally reached 1984 now. So things have certainly moved forward over the last few years. But we generally, there is a big issue vendor outside Waitrose, which is kind of a central point in the town. And when you think about the businesses that have struggled through lockdown, you think about the restaurants and the, you know, and all this kind of stuff and who can and can't operate the business. You don't think about those businesses that are, or you don't think about those individuals, I guess, within the businesses that are struggling. You don't think about, you know, we might think about the big issue as a brand, but until I read that article, it never occurred to me, actually, the impact COVID's having on that person that sells that big issue outside Waitrose in Daventry. You know, they're being affected too. And it's just LinkedIn as an organization, when they're, you know, they make their money through professionals like us having paid profiles, investing in advertising. If they were going to do something for the benefit of anyone, it's going to be for people that are going to spend money with them, right? And actually this initiative is, you know, that this, you know, it literally, it's extending a helping hand to someone that's really struggling. And we've all talked about shop local and support local business and that kind of thing. But I just felt a little bit like it took it to another degree. And in the last year, I haven't thought twice about that woman that I would just like nod my head and say good morning to as I went in and out of Waitrose. But it just made me stop and think about that individual that's being affected in that moment. So maybe that's testament to what an awful person I am, but I'd like to think I'm not the only one that has kind of not thought on that macro level. So it's an interesting thing. And then I kind of thought, well, actually, what, you know, we do a lot of stuff to help the communities we're in and the business owners that we have contact with, but actually, have we gone to like how granular have we gone with that in terms of what our capabilities might be? So yeah, it's a really interesting thing. And like I said, when we were talking about it before, I was all proud of Emily.
There was a news story on the BBC website this morning about how there's almost 2 million people in the UK that haven't worked for 6 months because they've been furloughed, or their businesses, so maybe they're a spa or a hairdresser or a business that just hasn't been open. So, it might be they won't open again. So yeah, there could be big issue sellers, anything like that. So that sort of initiative by LinkedIn is a great move. I think, as you say, it's going to give them definitely some kudos.
I think that's the thing. So I only posted on Facebook. So I rarely post on Facebook, really. I mean, I use Facebook obviously daily, but in terms of using my personal profile, I'm as we all know, I'm much more of an Instagram person. But I think that I posted the other day basically saying that my dad's band, I've mentioned it on here before, it was his year anniversary, if you want to call it that, on Monday, I think, since his last gig that he'd had. But my dad's very fortunate in that he has managed to find other work and things. But I think that's the thing, isn't it? I think this initiative with LinkedIn, yes, they're thinking, as Christina said, about the individual, but they're also thinking about the much bigger picture as well, and sort of the long term. And I think that's I think it's definitely a good move. I think that it's quite yes, obviously there's going to be benefits in it for them, but in the same sense, it's quite a selfless thing to do as an organisation, because obviously they are going to lose money and things in doing that, but they are helping people in the long run. So I think it's just one of those things, isn't it? We don't always, as Christina said, it's quite easy to a lot of people are struggling in this situation in multiple ways, and everyone sort of has their own things and their own problems going on. And obviously we're all not self-indulged in that, but that's our life. So we are involved in that, and we are going to be thinking about that. But it's important to think about sort of the bigger picture as well, and sort of other things. And like I said, a prime example is individuals that have been affected, like you said, Amanda, sort of hairdressers and things. And my dad's band, that's his livelihood, or was his livelihood. And hopefully it will pick up again, but we just don't know. And I think there's sort of the uncertainty there as well at the moment. But hopefully things will pick up. And I think this is a great move from LinkedIn, personally. Before I go on too much of a rant about COVID.
Do you know, I'm just thinking, so why haven't we had your dad on as a guest?
I don't know. I can ask him.
I think we should, because there's there's another, that band is his business. It's like, it's not something he does in his part-time, is it? It's like that is his livelihood, and he's been doing it for ages. And and it might be entertaining.
I might not be here that time.
To be fair, that's even better.
Be like, I'm sick.
That'd be even better, because then there'll be no holding us back.
That's true. I'll just
want all your secrets.
We should do it. So Jane, let's come to you next. What have you been looking at this week? What's the news from your corner of the Green Umbrella universe?
It's a couple of things. Not totally brand new, this one, but YouTube had rolled out their version basically of TikTok and Reels, which is called Shorts. And it's vertical, less than 60-second videos that, pretty much exactly like TikTok and Reels. And basically you hashtag them with hashtag Shorts, and then there'll be a dedicated feed just for those. Initially it rolled out in India, because obviously they had a massive thing with TikTok. But next month it's rolling out in the US, and I'm assuming if that goes well, it'll probably roll out everywhere. So whether people will use it, I don't know, because obviously TikTok's huge. Reels hasn't done so well. Now there'll be another one. Who knows? People will create videos and put it in all three places, maybe. I don't know. But it's just interesting to see that someone jumping back on another bandwagon that everybody else is already on. Really.
Do you know where I think... I tell you where I think they've gone wrong with Reels. I think if Reels were brought into Stories, and Stories and Reels were one thing, I think it would have taken off so much more. But the problem with Instagram right now is that you go into the app and there's so many different things to do that it's kind of like, I don't know what to do. Shall I post, or should I put something in my story, or should I create a reel, or should I be putting something on IGTV instead? And it's almost like it's trying to be too many things at once. And I just feel a little bit like general posting and stories are the They're the easy wins. They're accessible. Generally, people don't like change. Every time there's an update social media wise with an interface or something like that, everyone's going, oh, bloody Facebook's changed stuff again. And, LinkedIn, every time I log in, it's different. And so actually, the IGTV stuff, the Reels, I just kind of think it is, when you try and do too many things, it all becomes a bit diluted. And I suspect that's the reason why it hasn't taken off in the way they probably anticipate, or the way that I anticipated it would, actually. Forget what they think.
It's even there, to be honest, because you have to click somewhere else to see it. I don't even remember it's there. The only things I see video-wise on Instagram are usually from TikTok. Anyway, so mostly I don't even remember.
Although, has everyone seen they're going to be, if you share your TikTok into Instagram, they're going to demote those posts. So So I've already started seeing some different sort of software options appear, so that you can essentially do your TikTok, put it into this bit of software. It will remove the TikTok watermark, so that you can then use it in Reels without it being affected in the algorithm. Which just is like, how complicated do we need to make it? That's not going to encourage people to use Reels more, is it? Let's face it.
No.
So interesting anyway. Very, very interesting. Cool. Have you got something else for us as well, Jane?
The only other thing was Twitter Spaces, which at the minute is a beta thing. So there's only a few people who've got it. We had a look at one the other night, didn't we, that Matt Navarro was doing. But it is just a copy of Clubhouse, basically. But they are updating it a little bit. So they are actually listening to the users' feedback. And then, so they're adding new things like you couldn't before see how many people were actually in the room. You just got a plus 200 or whatever. So now you'll be able to see all of the people that are in the room. And you'll also be able to divide them into lists of listeners and speakers. And they're going to make it a bit more obvious sort of who is speaking, because at the minute it's just a tiny little icon on there. You can't really, if there's a lot of people in there, you can't actually see who's speaking. Yeah. So it's just interesting to see where it'll go. And apparently, it's coming to Android in March. One of you guys said earlier.
Literally. I think I picked that up this morning, that they've said that it's being released in Android in March, by the end of March. So, okay, get my thoughts in order. First of all, I think it was like a Thursday night or a Friday night when one of the people that we go to for social media information, all of a sudden they'd posted and it was like, Reels is here and we're starting Spaces is here and we're starting a Twitter Spaces now. So I jumped on and I was at home, and I don't think I'd been home long, and I didn't really say any words. I just started running around the house really excited, like grabbing my phone and I'm destroying everything on my desk now, but my phone and my headset, and like, oh my, like, can you see? And they're all like sat on the sofa going like, what? I was like, it's Twitter Spaces. What? So that was really, really funny, because they've got no idea what Twitter Spaces was. It was, they were just trying to watch. Yeah, I don't even know what they were trying to watch, but it was really, really funny, really funny. So there's that bit, and but the thing yesterday in a networking meeting, the conversation came out to Clubhouse, because I was in the room, so of course it came out to Clubhouse, and I'd sort of said about the Twitter Spaces thing, and I said I really do think it's like a race to Android right now. So whether it is Clubhouse, whether it is Twitter with Twitter Spaces, whether it is Facebook's new equivalent, which I don't think we've got a proper name for. There's only like rumoured names for that. But it is, I think whoever gets to Android first with it is probably, if it's not Clubhouse, then I'm not sure where Clubhouse's future lies. So it's really, really interesting to see how it will all roll out. So I think if Clubhouse wants to sort of leverage this new style of social media platform, they need to get their skates on. If Facebook gets there first, I think Clubhouse will be the next thing that is like, Clubhouse by Facebook kind of thing, part of the Facebook family of apps. So we'll see. But it's really interesting. Really interesting. Anyone else got any thoughts on that one? Because I always take over the conversation with that. I should fingers on lips, Christina. Fingers on lips.
I have, after our conversation about having it on in the background like a radio, I have tried that this week, and I really can't. I've tried to listen to a podcast just in the background, Clubhouse just in the background. I cannot do that and, you know, be like writing a blog or doing someone's social media at the same time. I have to stop, and so I'm actively listening. So I think I'm going to have to restrict it to dog walks, or when I've just kind of sat down and in what I call active listening mode, because otherwise it's just completely floating over my head, and I'm just not digesting it.
I think that if you're going to get value out of it from a marketing stroke business development perspective, you do need to be actively listening. You do need to you need to be prepared to engage, jump up on, put your hand up, be on stage, that kind of thing. And if you're not comfortable with that, that's fine, because you can still engage. It's just that you then need to DM that person if they're on Twitter Spaces, and and it's like, hi Amanda, really enjoyed the conversation, loved when you said this particular thing, would love to talk about that. Okay. Or like I said, on Clubhouse, whether you're popping into someone's Instagram DMs or whatever. So I think it is doing that follow-up, but in order to do that properly, you do need to actively listen. So Victoria's just commented on LinkedIn there. She's the same. She can't do active listening when she's working. And I think it is so true. But the reality is that if you're going to tune into these conversations, you want it to be purposeful. There needs to be a reason for it. That there are people that are just wasting time on Instagram. The people, right? I'm getting distracted and saying all the wrong words because I've got my phone there with Facebook open. I've got you guys on StreamYard so that we can multi-stream, and I've got LinkedIn on my iPad here so I can kind of, interact and engage. But everything's at different times. So it was like I was talking, and then LinkedIn brought the comment up, and I just went, vroom, because I get that. So I have this problem. It's not with active listening, it's just with active anything. I get so distracted. It's like something shiny happens and I'm over there.
Can I distract you with a very short funny story as well? When you're talking about, just slide into their DMs or send them a DM.
Slide it.
Slide into. So I have.
That's what made me smile when Christina said that. Sorry, Amanda.
I'm so down with the kids. Into it.
My lovely husband, though, doesn't work in a marketing world or social media. So when I said the other day about sliding into DMs, he was like, "Oh, does that mean kind of putting yourself in their shoes?" Because of a certain age, DMs are Doc Martin boots. So like, slide into their shoes.
You should have said yes, and now he's going to keep saying it all the time.
So people have been strange. But like that's so common for us. I mean, not that I often say I'm going to slide into your DMs, but
imagine he's in a meeting and he's like, "It's extremely important that that we slide into everyone's DMs."
I couldn't do that to him. But
I'm just hearing myself back on loop now, and I'm just like, every time a little bit more of me dies. So yeah. But my point was, there are lots of people spending time, for example, in Clubhouse. Said the right thing this time. In Clubhouse, and they're spending hours in there. And they're listening to lots of conversations, but they're not actually doing anything. They're not taking any action to get anything productive out of the time they're spending in there. And it is so easy to lose an hour or lose a couple of hours even to the platform. So I think that, I think everyone will have a play with Clubhouse at some point, or Twitter Spaces, as that kind of moves beyond the beta and rolls out. I think what's really important, that you go in knowing it's bloody addictive. So you need rules, you need to be time bound with it. And actually any time you spend in there, you want some meaningful action coming out of it. If you were and I use the conference analogy a lot, if you were in if you were at a conference and you went and sat in a seminar room and the person on stage, the panel on the stage were not giving you value, you'd sneak out the back of the room and you'd probably go to the pub, or, maybe the coffee shop, whatever. I'm sticking with the pub because I'm fun like that. But it's kind of the same in Clubhouse. If you slide it, if you go into one of these rooms and the conversation there is not engaging, why the hell are you still there 45 minutes later? Get out, go and do something productive with your day. And it is, maybe you'll miss something. That's the joy of the platform. Anytime you're not in it, you are missing out. It's not always a bad thing to miss out. So yeah, it's interesting, but you definitely need a few rules when it comes to that platform to make sure that you're, anytime you spend in Clubhouse or in Twitter Spaces is the best use of your time, not the worst use of it. Cool. So I was going to come to Amanda next and see if she'd got any other stories to tell, but I think her dog's probably still barking.
A little bit, but he's downstairs. I'm just going to casually ignore him. I think there's just a post. But another thing I've been working on this week is, I suppose, like Mark, but a different angle, is on websites. So obviously Mark does the kind of, I would say, the more intelligent stuff in the background, the technical building of them. But again, working with a client to kind of look at the language, the imagery that they're using and pulling it all together. And what it's made me realize is you have to sort of almost interview people from different departments. So this is if it's a slightly smaller business. Obviously, if it's kind of owner managed, it's just you, small team, this is what we do. When you get into a slightly bigger business and there's different departments and people have got, or different products or things, services that you're selling, you almost have to kind of go interview each person, get their information. And it just kind of made me think that marketing almost has to be like a friend to everybody. So we have to be a friend to everybody, sometimes even like a therapist to everybody, because they tell you this is a problem. The website's not doing this for me, or I'm not showcasing that product. Maybe sometimes there's a bit of competition because they feel like they're not being heard by their existing marketing team, or and it just kind of made me think back to a lot of website projects. And I thought it's really not just a case of us as marketers sitting there going, well, that's a nice picture, I'll use that, or this is some good copy. You have to kind of get inside people's brains almost and get the information out and be that kind of linchpin between everybody else. I
think sometimes it feels a little bit like coaching.
Yes. Oh, yes.
It's like you're talking to one department, and and this happens a lot with the sales in bigger organizations where you have this real, I'm sales and I'm marketing, and there's this no man's land in between. And it is almost like you're having coaching conversations with them so people can see how they maybe need to be a bit more forgiving, or how they need to take a bit more responsibility themselves, because they're like, marketing is like, well, sales get all the results, they get rewarded for everything and I get nothing. Or, sales is like, marketing just don't get us, they just don't understand. And it's a bit like siblings and you're the parent.
Yes.
So like having to mediate between the two.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. It is. And then
I should write that down.
Yeah. Have I got the middle child that no one, no one really cares about?
That's your marketing agency right there.
Or have they got the older child who can fend for themselves and is just kind of cracking on with it? So, but yeah, that's a great analogy, and there is coaching conversations where you're kind of like, right, if you picture the website, what would it look like for you? What are the ideal results that it would bring you? And where are you now versus where you want to be? So yeah, there's a real kind of mix in there. It's not just a case of here's the brief, go write it. So yeah, it's good. It's always interesting whenever we're working with different brands.
Sometimes the word interesting can be exchanged for the word frustrating, because it's like you think you've got it right and we're all good, and then you go to that one final stakeholder and actually it turns everything on its head again, and you're just like, oh my, it's you should never try and please all the people all of the time, But in these situations, it's kind of our job to make sure that everybody everyone in the picture is happy, and it can be really, really tricky.
Yeah,
really tricky.
You're totally right. And for the record, in this instance, when I say interesting, I genuinely mean interesting. I mean, it might get frustrating as we get closer to the website launch, but at the moment, it is interesting learning about different aspects of the business.
She's just saying that so she doesn't get in trouble. I'm joking.
Is she talking about me? But yeah, it is really interesting. But you make a good point as well, because it is our job to kind of gather all that information. But I have, I've said this phrase before to in-house marketers. Your job is not a democracy. There are times when you kind of have to say, okay, this is what I'm paid to do. I'm paid to make the decision. So trust me, I know what I'm doing. I know that image is not going to work, or it's poor quality, or that wording is the wrong way round, or we need to lead with it, or whatever it is. But yeah, even things like, do you remember, people who've ever worked in a slightly bigger organization, if you were doing a company Christmas card, oh my God, if you put that out to opinion, everyone would have a different opinion on what you had to do. And you would waste hours doing it. And it's kind of those occasions where I'm like, your job is not a democracy. Now you have one or two choices, give them to like 2 or 3 people, and just go for the majority vote. That's it, job done. Don't waste time on it.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's brutal, but
No,
I think it's ideal. I think it's ideal. We're lucky because we're a small team. So in terms of the sort of head office, if you like, in terms of the decision making, there's 4 of us on screen. Obviously, Mark is normally here. There is one other person in the mix as well, who is the lovely Jenny that no one ever sees on screen. But it's like any decisions we make as a group, and there's only 6 of us. But then you go into organizations and it's like there's like, forget 6 people, there's 6 bloody departments it needs to go through for a decision to be made. And do you know that the stuff the other week, the beans on Weetabix? Okay, let's use that as an example. There are brands that I've worked with who, not massive brands, but it's kind of I say not massive brands, but PLCs. So but by nature they're going to be huge, but that not massive high street brands everyone would know, but sizable. And if they were going to respond to that tweet with something humorous, it probably would have taken them 4 or 5 days to agree 280 characters. And actually the beauty in that post was the fact that all of these social media managers from Sainsbury's and from the police, from the NHS, it's like from Burger King, they've got that kind of authority as experts in what they do, trust in their ability to represent the brand, that actually they could respond pretty quickly. And it all kind of contributed to what is a fantastic piece of marketing from a social media perspective. But like I said, these brands where it's like everything gets overthought and overthought and overthought and overthought, they end up missing so many opportunities because of it. And for us that becomes frustrating, because when we're working with a brand, well, you've paid us to come into your business because you think we're trustworthy, because you understand that we've got the expertise to know when to comment and when to leave it alone. And so it's actually when we're fighting with you on this stuff, it becomes a bit of a frustration as well. And we're outsourced. Imagine being in that situation when you are within a company. It's just, you talk about people kind of finding joy in their work and feeling empowered and that sort of stuff. That's the opposite of that, isn't it? As a marketer within a brand. But yeah, God, I've really brought the conversation down to a negative note, haven't I? Blimey, it's like it's depressing being around myself. So what else have we been up to? What's been going on? Who else has got something?
I've been busy, but not really much interesting to talk about. I've been doing blogs, meetings, my normal work I do every day. I've been busy, but like I said, it's not an exciting something other people will find interesting. Obviously, I find it interesting.
You better. I've been, I wouldn't say hanging out, but there's quite a few. Sorry, Paul's put a comment up that I didn't quite understand, but I get it now. I'll be back to that in a second. Yeah, I've been in a few Facebook groups, that kind of thing. I've had a few questions this week, and one of the questions that's popped up was about the LinkedIn algorithm and like what gets you most reach and how that works in terms of posting. And it's something we talk about a lot. We talk to our clients when we're doing coaching calls and stuff like that. It comes up all the time. But I thought it might be worth just running through now, if that's not too boring. Little snippet for you. But basically, so there used to be something called the golden hour. Okay, and the idea was you post on LinkedIn, and then basically in that first hour after posting, that's where you kind of get most of your engagement. Now, this golden hour is now more like a golden 2 hours. Okay, so what happens is you post on LinkedIn. LinkedIn shows that post within the first couple of hours to a percentage of your audience, your connections. And if there's enough engagement, then it opens it up and it will show it to more people. So this is why a lot of people have kind of created these little pods where if they post, then they'll share that link in their little pod, and everyone else in the pod is then going to come and like and comment and share that post. But LinkedIn is a bit wise to this. So if you've got the same 23 people always liking your post within 3.5 seconds of you posting, LinkedIn is actually smart enough to work out you're trying to game the system. Okay, so I've got this whole thing about pods, and that's probably a conversation for another time. But yeah, like I said, just be careful about how you use that stuff for that reason. But the reality is the type of engagement you get also has an effect. So if you think about like, comment, share, if people share your post, it's creating a copy. So that's kind of diluting the attention that post is going to get. And you'll find that you don't get a great amount of reach on the content that is being shared in that way. Okay, so it's like you don't really want people to hit the share button on your LinkedIn post because you want all that LinkedIn juice on the original post. If people like your post, fine, that's great, happy days. But what you really want is for people to comment on the post. Okay, so if you think like if I comment on Amanda's post, it will have sort of 2 times, maybe 4 times the push in the algorithm that it would have had if I just liked it. So comments are really, really important. Also, someone looking at that post, they see your comment, they see your name, maybe they're a second or a third connection or whatever. Maybe you've said something, marginally interesting, and they want to click through and they then want to connect with you. Okay, so it's a great way of supporting someone else's content, but also maybe getting a bit of attention yourself, and it's feeding the algorithm. Okay, now if you comment versus sharing a post, it's something like 7 or 8 times the kick it gets in the algorithm. But this is why it's so important. We really need to think about how we're putting stuff out. We want to make sure it's at the right time for our audience, for the people we really want engaging in it. We want to make sure we're getting that initial engagement, ideally comments, because we know that's what's going to give it the shove. There's a lot of stuff around about, you should put your link as an additional comment rather than putting the link within the main area of the post. Well, that's a big no-no. LinkedIn have worked out people do this, and now if you do that, you'll find that the reach of your post, it sinks for that reason. So if you wanted to spend the time, the most optimum way of doing things right now is post without a link and then edit it and add the link into the main body of the post afterwards. But who's got time for that? Let's be realistic, and again, if we're producing really good quality content that's designed to engage, people are going to engage with it anyway, whether we've put the link in there first off or 32 minutes later. The other thing a lot of people do is they'll tag in a load of people, either within the post or as a comment. And one of the things that LinkedIn has started to do now is if you're tagging a bunch of people, let's say we tag 10 people in there, and of those 10 people are untagging themselves because it's irrelevant, or they're not engaging with the post because it's irrelevant. LinkedIn goes, haha, you're trying to game the system. And again, you'll reduce the reach that you get on that post. Is this all making sense?
Yeah, totally.
The more I'm talking, the more boring I think I'm being. But this is really, really important stuff that people need to understand. It's like with LinkedIn, don't try and game it. Just produce really damn good content. It's as simple as that. Show up, be present, engage, and you'll get the reach that you need to get the results that you want, to get those prospects, to get those inbound leads, those messages with people wanting to work with you. That's the way you need to achieve it, rather than, another WhatsApp group with another 20 people that are going to like your post, or, but spending time piddling about with where you're going to put your link. Spending that time tagging those 20 people in where most of them are not interested in what you're talking about, and it's completely irrelevant to them. So actually add up all that time and produce something that is really, really designed to add value, and that's how you push things forward. But it's just amazing how many people just don't understand. They understand the basics of LinkedIn, and they try to understand enough to game it, but they don't actually commit to the quality. We very rarely get questions around, how do I make my content better? Here's my post. What would you do to make it better? Never get asked that. No,
it's always the likes.
Yeah.
How do I get likes?
How do I get more likes? Where should I put my link? Should I tag people into the post or into the comments? And it is just, to me, it's madness. It's like, actually, how do I make my content better should be the first question that we're asking of ourselves and of our peers. There's people that have every week every week they're tuning into this. So Paul Green, #1 fan of the Green Umbrella live lunch. How do we make this better? And if you put in the comments now, stop Christina ranting, then we'll just block you, mate. You'll have to find something else to do on Thursdays at 1:00. But yeah, there you go. So that's one of the things I've been talking about a lot this week, and that's a very small thing, a small bit of the information that I could talk about, but I'm conscious of time and how you all kind of think I don't shut up with this stuff and I just go on and on and on. So yeah. So has anyone got anything more positive to end the show on? No pressure.
I feel like that's a lot. You always do this. You say no pressure when you've just put loads of pressure. I felt like my message was quite positive about LinkedIn and COVID. So I feel like I'm taking a back seat.
Okay, so picking up on that note then, is it this week or was it last week? So there's been loads of content around about Random Acts of Kindness Day.
That was yesterday.
That kind of stuff. Yeah. So do you know what, guys? If you're watching this, if you've hung in there till the bitter end, okay, go and do something nice for someone. Yeah. And I think when it comes to doing something nice for someone and having integrity, it means that you've done something and you haven't told anyone about it, and you haven't like made a thing out of it so that you get the pat on the back. So just go and do something nice for someone, and don't tell a bugger. Don't tell anyone. That's my closing notes.
Nice.
We'll be back next week, Thursday, 12:00. I'll try and be brighter. I don't know what's wrong with me today. Bringing the energy levels down. I'll fix that. We have a guest next week, I think, don't we?
We do. So we have Julia Commode, who will be, I'm sure, bringing sunny disposition and positivity for us.
Excellent. So just as a heads up, Julia is, if you are working as a contractor, if you are new to being self-employed, or anyone that ticks at either of those situations, Julia, there's nothing she doesn't know about this stuff, and she's recently launched a business that is all about making sure people that are new to being self-employed know what to do and do all the right stuff. So it will be a really, really valuable show, and she's even lovelier than we are, so definitely come and join. Cool. On that note, we'll do the little wave. So, got to keep Emily happy. And then I'm going to hit end broadcast. So we'll see you all next week. Bye for now.
Bye.